Everyone to the October 28th, 2020 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. I'm Candace Breyer, Chairperson of the Zoning Board of Appeals. This meeting is being held electronically to protect public health and safety due to the COVID-19 virus and to comply with orders issued by the Governor, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and/or the Washtenaw County Health Department. We intend to conduct this meeting similarly to an in-person meeting. However, please be patient if there are technical issues. The Zoning Board of Appeals is a 9-person volunteer board nominated by the mayor and approved by City Council. First, we will hear from Planning Services represented tonight by John Barrett. Then the applicant or their representative will make their presentation. Applicants will have 5 minutes in which to make their presentation. Staff will keep time and announce when 30 seconds are remaining. We may ask questions of either the city or the applicant. We will acknowledge any written comments received by the board. We will allow an appearing party to express their support or objections. Public comment will be via telephone only. To speak during any of the public comment periods, please call 888-788-0099 and enter meeting ID 927-6780-4161. This information is also available on the published agenda in the public notices section of the city website and on the broadcast of this meeting on CTN Channel 16, AT&T Channel 99, and online at www.a2gov.org/watchctn. You need not have signed up in advance. In order to be called on to speak, callers must press *9 to raise their hand. Callers will then be called upon by city staff one by one using the last 3 numbers of their phone number. Upon being called on, callers will hear an audible announcement that the host is allowing them to speak. We ask that callers start by stating their name and address and speak from a quiet place and mute any background noise such as television so that we can hear you directly. City staff will announce when callers have 30 seconds left of their 3-minute comment period. After 3 minutes, they will be placed on mute so that we can proceed to the next speaker. The board will discuss the appeal and formulate a motion to approve the appeal. 5 affirmative votes of the board will be required for an appeal to be granted. Finally, any qualified party who is aggrieved by a decision of the board can appeal that decision to the Washtenaw County Circuit Court on a timely basis. We have roll call next. I am here. Mike Daniel.
Here.
Dave DeVarty.
DeVarty here.
Chris Fraley. Nicole Eisenman.
Here.
Todd Grant.
Here.
Elizabeth Nelson.
Here.
Charlotte Wilson.
Here.
Julia Good.
Here.
Moving on to approval of the agenda. Again, I will note that the first petition on the agenda, ZBA 20-022 18 Heatheridge Avenue, has been postponed due to incorrect public noticing. If anyone from the public is here to speak on that item, we'll take comment, but there won't be any discussion or action on that item this evening. Other than that, are there any questions or comments on the agenda? If not, do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Motion from Mike, support. From Charlotte, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to approval of the minutes, we have minutes from the September 24th, 2020 ZBA meeting. Are there any comments or corrections to those minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve the minutes? Motion from Elizabeth, support.
Support DeVarty.
Thank you, Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on to petition ZBA 20-022 18 Heatheridge Avenue. As I noted, this petition was not correctly noticed due to an error with the printer. So if there is anyone here from the public to speak on this petition, we will take your comments now. Otherwise, any discussion or action on this petition will take place at a future meeting.
No callers.
All right, thanks, Kristen. So moving on now to petition ZBA 20-023 1572, 1574 Jones Drive. John?
All right, I'm John Barrett, zoning coordinator for the city of Ann Arbor. The one petition before us this evening is ZBA 20-023. The addresses are 1572 and 1574 Jones Drive. John Leland, the property owner, is requesting a variance from section 5.16.6, subsection 2B, accessory uses and structures, and section 5.18.5, averaging a front building line. The owner is seeking to demolish an existing detached garage and construct a new 400 square foot garage in the same location. The average front setback requirement is 23 feet 6 inches, and the proposed front setback, if approved, would be reduced to 17 feet. The property is zoned R2A, two-family dwelling district. The subject property is located southeast of Plymouth Road, and the home was built in 1956. The 1,843 square foot home is a certified duplex that is situated on a 10,715 square foot lot. The original garage was an enclosed carport on 3 sides with a sloped roof toward the street. That architectural design did not allow for a garage door. The original structure has been recently demolished, and construction for the proposed garage had been started without an approved building permit. A stop work order was issued on July 28th of 2020, and a new building permit, building 20-1301, has since been submitted and placed on hold pending this hearing. I'm going to go to the PowerPoint presentation. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Slide number 3 is the zoning and location map. You can see the subject property highlighted in yellow in the center of your screen, just southeast of Plymouth Road. The next slide is the aerial map of the existing neighborhood and existing conditions. And you see the highlighted parcel in the center. The next slide is the
That's
aerial map showing the property. You see the detached garage right here that is the subject of tonight's hearing. That was there in the photo. It's recently been demolished. The applicant is proposing to put a new 20 by 20 structure, and it's in the same place, same footprint, and same location. The next slide is the certified survey that was submitted with the application, and you can see the driveway and the relationship with the house and the proposed detached structure in front. These are the elevation drawings that were submitted with the application. This is the proposed garage door, and it looks like another door and some windows above. The application said that, or the building permit application said that it was going to be 12 feet tall in height. This is the floor plan that was submitted with the application. This is an elevation side view of what the proposed garage and the roof line will look like. These are photos that were submitted by the applicant. That was the pre-existing detached structure. More photos that were submitted by the applicant. These are the photos that I took at my inspection. This is looking towards the neighbor, and this to the right is where the proposed garage is, and you see the survey stake. Here is some of the construction that was starting to commence without a building permit. I have to ask the applicant about the overall height. I have an email and some concerns about the overall height from some adjacent properties, and the application and the building permit said 12 feet, but it appears it's much taller than 12 feet. And this is the current status of when I was out there taking photos. This is another photo looking east towards the adjacent property and the construction that's taking place right now. This is looking from the driveway down towards Jones Drive. This is the relationship between the two adjacent properties. And you see the detached garage and the neighbor's driveway and the relationship with the proximity of the two homes. Just another perspective of the construction. Looking from Jones Drive at the property. And that's the current posting of the property to cease construction. That concludes my presentation. I can take any questions at this time.
Thank you, John. Any questions for staff? Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
John, do you know what the height was of the former garage that's no longer there?
My best guess, I would say it's between approximately 8 feet, 6 to 8 feet tall.
Great, thanks.
Probably 6 feet over here, 7 feet up to like 8, 9 feet, something like that. As you can see in that picture.
Got it, thanks.
I have a question.
Yeah, Dave, go ahead.
John, I didn't see really carefully. It looks from the vertical or the looking down at the driveway coming in and then turning into this garage. Is it possible that there could be a garage or a shed put in the rear yard, which is huge, and a drive put to that side of the house? Like on the side, yeah, see, I'm just not sure if a drive could fit along there. I don't know what sort of structural, and I could ask the homeowner, I guess.
Yeah, the homeowner and I did discuss that. You need 10 feet for a driveway between the drive and the property line and the house. I'm not sure if he has it. If he does, it's right at 10 feet, but there is, I will say that there is a very large grade differentiation between the two. From that point, they'd have to do some massive grading. If you were out there, you saw the difference between where the driveway is in the backyard. It's pretty steep.
Okay. Is that a creek bed in the rear?
A creek bed?
I know there's a creek somewhere. Is it on the other side of Jones Drive?
I know there's a creek down towards the park down more towards Jones and Broadway. At the end of Jones, there's a creek.
It's between Broadway. Yeah, it's, yeah.
It's not on this side of the neighborhood though.
Gotcha.
Elizabeth, did you still have a question?
Yeah, I did not go out there to look at this. From the photos, the framing, how tall would you estimate that to be? I mean, the original one looks, I agree with your assessment, it looks like somewhere between 7 and 9 feet, that one, but like the framing looks to be almost as tall as the house.
Yeah, the maximum building height for a detached garage is 21 feet. I don't think that exceeds 21 feet. It's probably around 15 or 16 feet tall.
I don't know if this is a question for you or for the petitioner, but the drawings that were submitted with the windows up above, is this structure intended to have like a loft or a second story then?
I think it's going to possibly have a storage area up top is what was in the application.
With windows. Okay, interesting.
One more question here.
Yeah, Dave.
John, if we grant this variance, could the this homeowner or a future homeowner attach this structure to the house and build up further?
Yes,
We are,
because yes, because
technically they'll be able to build in that area, right?
they would be able to attach the garage. That's correct. Because you're granting the variance on the front setback. And so whether it's attached or detached, you're changing the setback. So once you change the setback to 17 feet, then they could connect this.
And then if, I'm not sure what it looks like a very wide structure. If we don't grant the variance, could theoretically a one stall detached garage be put in there and meet code?
If it meets the 23 feet, 6 inches.
Okay.
Nicole?
John, do the same, I guess, rules apply for a garage versus a carport?
Yes.
Okay. And,
Detached accessory buildings have to meet that front setback.
okay. And then my other question, just to confirm or clarify, there was something posted, a correspondence between you and the petitioner talking about adding a laundry space to that, to this. And I just want to confirm that they're only doing this garage build out. There's no other kind of adjacent piece of building attached to it.
Yeah, not that I'm aware. That was a correspondence I just wanted you to see from myself and the petitioner from a year ago, last October 2019. And I think his plans may have changed since then. I think at the time he was going to try to connect the two structures, but we can ask the petitioner that question, or he can respond to that once it's his turn.
Okay.
I believe that connection in that laundry room has changed since.
Okay, thank you.
Elizabeth?
I don't know if the city has this information, or maybe the petitioner would have this information. The carport, was that built with the house, or is that something that was added later?
So the petitioner stated that it was the house was purchased as is, and this was there. The old garage is at least 40 or 50, maybe 60 years old. It was an original garage or a carport that was non-conforming to today's code, but it was there when he purchased the property.
When we were looking at the aerial photos, I didn't see any other garages that were built like this. I mean, is the landscape, is the topography here real up and down? I know you mentioned that on this particular lot there's a slope so that the backyard is on a slope, but is that true of like all the neighbors? Because I was trying to figure out what, like the neighbor immediately to the north or the east or whichever compass direction it was, they seem to have a garage in the back.
Yeah, there is some topography changes in this neighborhood, and it's pretty severe from the street to the back of people's lot.
Yeah, like just above the lot we're looking at, it looks like they have a garage in the back.
Yep. They may have less of a slope, or at some point someone went in there and did some excavating. The applicant has informed me that he doesn't have, there's no way to get it to the back with. So I mean, maybe they could with a lot of excavating and a lot of moving of earth, but it would be pretty expensive.
Okay.
Todd?
Yeah, this is, I'm familiar with the area. This is a steep climb to the top of Broadway Hill. It's a very significant elevation change in just a short little bit of distance. So I can't remember this particular property, but it's a very steep incline.
Mike?
Sort of cuts against my previous question, but John, just to confirm, the height of this garage is not within our purview, right? Like that we're focused on the variance for the setback. They have to follow the height restrictions elsewhere, but that's not something we should be judging, correct?
That's correct. That's not before us tonight. He's not asking for a variance from that. He's just asking for the location, and detached accessory structures can go up to 21 feet.
Got it. Thanks.
Julia.
John, do you have a slide that shows the setback? Like what he's requesting versus, okay.
Well, yeah. So you can see the GIS, it's not 100% accurate, it's pretty close, but from the right of way is a wide right of way in Jones Drive. It was like a 50-foot wide right of way. And so they have like 15 feet between the edge of the curb to their property lines. And from there to the house or the garage, it was 17 feet. And then the average based on these adjacent homes and these properties was averaged out, I got 23.5. So it's 6.5 feet in front of what it's supposed to be.
Okay.
And detached buildings, accessory structures like this that aren't connected to the house can't be in that front setback. If it was at the 24-foot marker and say his house was back a little bit further, then he could do it because it was behind the 23.5.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for John? All right, the petitioner, if you would like to state your name for the record and begin your presentation, you'll have 5 minutes.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just lost. Shit.
We can hear you still.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just lost the screen. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm going to go on without being able to see you all, but my name is John Leyland, and I am the petitioner. Just to clear up some of the earlier comments, the proposal for the garage was a bit different initially with John Barrett. I was adding for an additional 10 feet to the size of the garage and was going to attach it to the house. I've since just decided to just keep the structure the same footprint as the old carport was for the sake of just being efficient and just getting it done and having enough storage and enough space for the two unit dwelling that I own and live in. Also, to answer another question, the front, I did change the pitch of the garage, so it's going from front to back, giving me room for a garage door, and the height of the front is 13 feet, and it goes to 11 feet in the back, giving me a lot more room for storage, and there will be some sort of, I would not call it a loft, but maybe a loft or a storage unit in the front of it where the windows are. The windows, I just wanted to add more light and a good look to the structure. My house it was built 1956. It's a tech-built mid-century house. I just wanted to clean up that space, make a nice structure, make it match the house, link up to the house. And just sort of beautify that space a little bit more. I can take questions from anybody at this point, I suppose.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions for the petitioner? No one? All right, if there's anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this petition, please call in now. Once you've called in, please raise your hand and city staff will call on you to speak.
No callers.
All right, thank you, Kristen. I will note that we did receive a late communication on this project just this evening from Ann Lund at 1510 Jones Drive. It notes neither opposition or support for the request, but was requesting some additional information and expressing concerns over the height of the structure and the effect on noise levels in the neighborhood. With that said, we are in discussion. Charlotte.
So I'm actually the neighbor directly to the north of the subject property. So I'm very familiar with this property here. The backyard is really sloping, and honestly, the reason that we are able to have a garage is because the other side of the duplex that I live in is a much more gradual slope on the other side. But on my side and closer to Mr. Leland's property, it's actually a fairly significant slope. And I'm in support of this variance because I don't think there's really anywhere else you could put a garage on this property because of that. It's a unique aspect, and I don't think that I see this as a self-imposed, since it had already been existing.
Thank you, Charlotte. Mike?
Charlotte, thank you for that additional context. Very helpful. Yeah, I'm going to support this as well. It's the same footprint as the prior garage. Given that we're not asked to or should be taking height into account, I'm not going to do so. And for me, I think this is going to be an improvement on the last garage, which looked pretty run down. So yeah, I'm going to support this.
Yeah, Julia, go ahead.
Is it the same footprint as the previous structure that was torn down?
Yes, it's going to be the exact same location.
Okay.
I'd
Dave,
like
go
to say
ahead.
something. I'm reluctant to support this. I am swayed a bit by Charlotte's context, giving some context to the request. But it's basically, by giving this variance, we're allowing a build to the new front setback that we're creating that could be tied to the existing structure. So I see it as a potential addition that goes into the front setback, not just a replacement of the existing carport or garage. So I'm not sure where I am on this. I'd like to hear from other members of the board. I would be a reluctant supporter of this if I do turn out to vote for it.
Elizabeth.
I have kind of a technical question. I really appreciate Charlotte's feedback on this, and I think it's really meaningful it's always meaningful when an immediate neighbor has supportive feedback, but as a technical matter, it is someone who on this body who's an adjacent neighbor supposed to recuse themselves? No? I'm surprised by that.
It's not
COI rules, right? It's just immediate family members or financial interests.
Yeah, there's no relationship involved. It was expressed to me by Charlotte, and also she doesn't have any financial ties or interests. She's just a neighbor. So
I
think we've had a similar situation in the past too.
So do you rent then? I'm sorry, that's a nosy question, but I mean.
Yes, I'm not sure that it has much bearing on.
Well, no, I mean, I think it would, because if you were a property owner that was adjacent, you would have, well, I'll let it go. I appreciate there was a conversation beforehand about this. I've actually had conversations with the legal department about this because it's interesting. It's important to me that, well, at any rate, I appreciate your feedback, just because it always matters to hear from people in the vicinity.
Yeah, Julia.
So generally, I feel, having been the new person, having read through all the stuff, that I need to be really strict that somebody gives a good reason why they need a variance. So I'm kind of hearing it in this case, but Dave, could you clarify? I didn't understand what your concern about the future.
Sure. Once we grant this variance, this owner or a future owner could tie this garage or turn it into something other than a garage, actually, and tie it in with the existing structure. So even though I'm kind of bothered because the original thought was to have it tied to the house. And so we scaled that back, but he scaled it back in what sort of a context? And now if he gets this variance, does that reopen that as a possibility, and he decides to do that? These are questions that I could ask him, but it doesn't, we're really granting the ability to build anything within that space because we're changing the front setback.
Okay, so without a variance, he could convert that to living space rather than a garage?
With a variance, he can.
I mean, if we grant the variance today, 4 years from now, if he wants that to be a living space?
I believe, isn't that so, John?
Yes, but it couldn't be another living space. It couldn't be another unit. The property zoned R2A, so he has a duplex, so it couldn't max out. He couldn't add a third unit. But the applicants expressed to me that he needs a garage to park his vehicles. So I guess anything could happen, but at this point, I would say that after conversations with him, I think it's going to be strictly used for a garage and storage, just like anyone else would. He just doesn't have a garage right now, and he wants a garage for his vehicles.
Nicole.
I understand Dave's concern with allowing building larger than what's existing in the future, but looking at that site and having driven by today, there's really no other opportunity for a garage. There's really no opportunity to park along Jones Drive. So anywhere for a car to go, unless you don't have a car, you really would have a challenge to put your car someplace in that area. So I understand your reluctance, and I would usually be I would probably also be reluctant to support, but having seen the site and understanding some of the constraints, I'm going to support this one.
Yeah, I'll just, I guess, echo kind of what Nicole said. I understand some of the concerns, and again, some of the concerns is expressed by the neighbor who sent the email today as well. But again, the site legitimately has some physical constraints. And again, as Nicole mentioned, there's not a lot of opportunity for on-street parking. There's not another opportunity on sites for a place to put a garage. The fact that even though there is potential in the future, I suppose, if this property owner or someone else down the line chooses to convert the space, I think at this point, the intent is just to use it as a garage. It's replacing another garage type structure in the same footprint. So I think for me, it's a support.
I'm prepared to make a motion if there are no other people that want to speak.
All right, thanks, Dave.
ZBA 20-023, 1572 and 1574 Jones Drive. Variance. Based on the following findings and in accordance with the established standards for approval, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants the following variance from Chapter 55, Unified Development Code, Section 5.15.5, averaging an established front building line and table 5-17.1, single-family residential zoning districts. A variance of 6 feet, 6 inches from the required 23-foot inch required front setback, resulting in a 17-foot front setback. These findings, the alleged practical difficulties are exceptional and peculiar to the property of the person requesting the variance and result from conditions that do not exist generally throughout the city, and that the conditions and circumstances on which the variance request is based are not a self-imposed practical difficulty.
Thank you, Dave. I have a motion. Do I have support? Support from Mike. Charlotte?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Dave?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
Elizabeth?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Mike? Have no new business. We've addressed communications. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak? If so, please call in now and raise your hand. If you've already called in, please raise your hand and wait for staff to call on you.
I'd like to ask a question as a ZBA board member.
Sure, Dave.
In this political season, I've had several people asking me about placing of signs on the front extension. And it seems to me that it would be worthwhile for us as a board, since we oversee the sign ordinance, to consider granting or passing a resolution, and I'd be willing to draft one maybe in conjunction with staff and bring it to the board in the near future. It wouldn't be too late for this election season, but we could consider it prior to future elections that would grant homeowners, maybe it could just be in residential districts, would grant homeowners the possibility of putting political signs in the front extension, which is prohibited at the moment, for 2 weeks to 4 weeks before an election, and with the responsibility to remove them as soon as the election is over. So that's something I'm thinking about, and I just want to throw that out there. Feel free to contact me after the meeting and let me know your thoughts as fellow board members. And it's something I'd like to just put on the radar screen as something I'm thinking about and would consider bringing to the board as a resolution. I know City Council would have to pass it for it to really take effect. I think, maybe not. And that's another question for staff. But it's something that I would like us to do as a city that promotes Democratic involvement in elections and Republican involvement and independent involvement.
What I will do, Dave, is I will pass that along to the planning manager, and they can review that and possibly look at it as either a text amendment or it'd be a council resolution. So I will pass that communication up the food chain, if you will, and I will get back to you with what the response is.
Okay. And I don't want to direct staff time without approval by the full ZBA, but it is a question that's something I'd like to bring forward.
Well, I'm not sure that would be required by the ZBA.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll be emailing you, Dave. I have thoughts. That's interesting.
Okay.
Is there any other public comment? All right, thanks, Kristen. That being said, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion from Dave, support from Nicole, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Just
You
want to
will.
let everyone know that don't